Hey, it's Steve. In this video, we're going to take a look at a new layout project that I'll be working on here in 2023. Now, this is only one of a couple different projects at least that I'll be working on, and plus I'll still be trying to finish up my small N-scale portable switching layout that I've had some videos on recently as well. But here is the 2x4 foot N-scale layout that I plan to work on during the course of 2023 along with some other projects. So you can see here, it should be kind of an exciting layout project. It's going to have 3 different levels and it will have a lot of potential for a lot of trains running along with some good operations as well. So you can see here, the features of this layout are going to be that it's going to have track on 3 different levels and structures at least on 3, if not 4 levels as well. So that will provide a lot of just visual interest with the variation in levels of the track and the structures. And that will kind of also be kind of incorporated into the background. So there'll be some background structures that are basically on the backdrop itself, what I mean. And so they'll kind of add more of the urban, multi-layered feel. Something maybe kind of reminiscent of what you'd see in like the hilly areas of Pennsylvania, something like that, where you have a lot going on with different, levels of track and buildings and things like that. So one thing that I really wanted to sort of have is the ability to see trains running while I'm doing some switching operations. So more times than not, I just enjoy watching trains run more so than actually doing switching operations, although I do enjoy that as well. And a lot of times, if I'm going to be doing switching operations, it's nice to sort of just have the background trains running there. And just the sound of it is kind of relaxing as well, of the trains going around. And so having the ability to have a lot running at one time I thought was kind of fun. Also, it provides an opportunity to have a platform for testing different types of equipment as well. And so one will just be a tram trolley on the upper level there near some, town type structures, but we'll basically have a double main line on the lower level, just trains running on that. And then the middle level will be mainly focused for doing a lot of that actual switching operation work. Where on the right-hand side there, we'll have the interchange track and cars will come off of there. And there will be basically 4 tracks for industries that those cars can then be switched onto and off of on that middle level. So it'll provide some interesting operation. Now, one thing that is going to be potentially a little bit unique here is I will have DC or DCC operation on any of the tracks. Actually, I might just make the tram loop on top just DC only. We'll see. But everything else will have the ability to either be DC or DCC. So I'll have toggle switches for every single loop of tracks, all 4 of them, where you can essentially just swap between the DCC system, which will control the entire layout, all 4 tracks, or individual DC controllers for each of those tracks. And I'll have all those built into the fascia in terms of the DC controllers, and there'll be a jack to plug in whatever DCC throttle I end up using. But I'll have built-in direction and control and speed control knobs for every track if I want to use DC operations. So I can run any locomotive that I want on these. Now, obviously, the minimum radius is going to be a little bit constrained. The minimum radius on the lower level is, on the inner loop is going to be 9 3/4 inches, 11 inches on the outer loop since it is only 2x4 feet. And the minimum radius on the switching level is going to be 8.5 inches. So any 4-axle locomotive will be fine. No problem at all on any of those loops of track. I can do some 6-axle locomotives on the lower level as well. Everything should run on them, but mostly those will be kind of confined to the 11-inch loop. And I had thought about making this like a 2.5 foot wide type of setup. And so I could have 12 3/4 inch radius curves and be able to run anything I wanted to. But I kind of wanted it to be a simpler build where I can just get those 2x4 foot birch plywood panels from the store, from Home Depot and Lowe's or whatever, and use that for a base to make it a very simple build. And so one sort of aspect of this is that you could, if you're building this yourself, for example, you could just eliminate the upper level. You could only have 1 track on the lower level, or not even build the lower level and just build the middle level or whatever. But having that 2x4 foot size is really nice. It's kind of like the 4x8 foot size of N scale, right? Where you just get that little 2x4 foot panel. You can build on it pretty easily. And one reason for the 2x4 foot size as well is that actually fits on my workbenches that I have in the garage. And not so much for building it, but for if I'm doing filming or doing, showing products on there, like different locomotives or rolling stock or whatever it might be, I'll have something that I can set up on those tables where my lights are and have an easier time using it for those types of things. So anyway, that's what the idea there is that my tables are all 2 feet wide. So this will be 2 feet wide. It'll fit on there nicely. It's not going to overhang a lot. And again, it's just going to be kind of a convenient size for moving around and that kind of thing. So here is a track list if you are interested in getting the track for this type of setup. Now, people always ask about, oh, we can't find these little track sections. They don't make them anymore, or they're out of stock or whatever. All of Kato's track, those small little sections are all sold in these little track assortment packs that you can buy from Kato, where they have a bunch of little tiny pieces in them. And that's pretty much how you have to buy all of those small pieces. And my dog, one of my dogs, is joining in the video as well, so you can say hi to Ponyboy back there at the window. Anyway, in terms of the wiring for this layout, I am going to likely have about 16 sets of terminal rail joiners, 1 DCC system to control the whole thing, as well as 4 built-in DC controllers. I'll show a picture here somewhere of what I'm probably thinking of using. I've used these in the past for different layouts as well, but this isn't certain by any means. I'll probably change everything as I go along, but that's kind of the idea. I still plan to have push button control of all the turnouts on the switching level. There's 5 of those, so I'll have some system for that. Again, double pole, double throw toggle switches to switch between DC and DCC on each of the loops, so I can really, run whatever I want. And you can run DC locomotives on a DCC system, but then you get the whine and that high-pitched noise coming from them. And obviously, a lot of times you can run DCC locomotives on a DC system too, and those typically work better that way. But I want to have the ability to use whatever I want on either system, so it'll make it nice and convenient. I do want to have some accessory power for lights and structures and that kind of thing, and a single power cord for everything with battery backup built in if I can kind of swing that. But basically I'll have a system in place where I can, do either, but there's like a bay to hold the battery. So if I take it to a train show or somewhere else, I can basically run it off the battery just fine. Now, in terms of wiring locations, likely I will have 2 feeders on the top level, as you see here. It doesn't matter where they're at, but just 2 to kind of help for redundancy there. The middle level will likely have quite a few more, basically between every set of turnouts and somewhere on every single siding, where the track dead ends, I'll have a feeder as well. So the idea is I don't want a turnout to fail in terms of electrical conductivity, and then that have an impact on preventing power from getting to some point beyond the turnout. So every track essentially will have a feeder connected to it between one of the turnouts or after one of the turnouts there. And then the bottom loop will just have 2 sets of feeders on each loop of track, so 4 total for the bottom level, but a pretty simple setup there. Now, before I came up with this current design that I have, this is actually what I had been looking at doing. Sort of the same idea, 2 levels, a loop on the bottom level, and then a middle level, or top level in this case, that had all the switching operations, again, with the interchange on the right, and then several industries, 4 tracks there for switching cars. And so that's kind of what I was initially looking at doing, kind of everything surrounded by structures, looking very urban and industrial. But then I was like, well, I might as well add a second track to the bottom level and have a double track main line down there. And then it's kind of fun to have that little tram line. When I built that 2x3 foot N scale layout, that kind of was at the start of my channel back several years ago. I really enjoy that little tram just going around there. So I'm going to do that again, I think, and have something like that up there with the, kind of going up into a town area with maybe some apartment buildings or stores or something like that up there in that top corner. So that's kind of the idea there. But that's kind of what my initial thought was. And then again, this is what the final design is. Now that I am going to make that tram level on the top left there extend farther down, and so it's a little bit larger of a loop, and so there'll be a little bit more coverage in that bottom left hand corner of that upper level tram loop. But overall, the same kind of idea, where I'll probably have like sort of like a second level on the top level of buildings. So in the tram will go underneath that, and just to kind of hide it a little bit, and also just provide one more step up in elevation of the structures. So I'll kind of have that lower level. So basically 4 levels of stuff on the layout. So that'll provide a lot of visual interest. And then the background will be pictures of buildings in one shape or another, on all the sides of the layout to look kind of very urban and industrial, and but also have more of a town feel on one side. So this is kind of the idea that I'm looking at. I think it should be a fun project. I'm hoping that this will be just something that I can keep around and use for a lot of different videos, in terms of switching operations, showcasing new locomotives or rolling stock that I have, even if I don't have, or even if I buy something that won't fit on here in terms of being able to make the radius curves, like a long, maybe I buy another big boy or something like that, a long locomotive that won't actually fit on these curves. I can at least display it on there, run it back and forth or whatever. And so it'll be a backdrop for that kind of stuff as well. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But just a small portable layout that's going to have a lot going on at one time. So, it'll be one of those things where you could have it in the corner, 4 trains running on it, just fun to watch kind of thing while you're doing something else. So that's kind of the idea here. And hopefully it should be a fun project during the course of this year. I also plan to build a much smaller diorama type layout that might be on the order of 15 to 20 inches, rectangular type thing. And I'll eventually be having videos on that. One of those things where I saw something online, like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'd like to build something kind of like that, but like this. And so, and then I still had my long list of requests for people that have wanted different layouts built. And so I'm trying to do a little bit here and there on those. So anyway, a lot of exciting projects that you can kind of watch and follow along with as I build them during the course of this year. And I'm going to try to hopefully have content out pretty regularly this year. Last year was pretty tough. We were doing a lot of home remodeling. Didn't get very many videos out until December. And this year, hopefully I can get to a more regular schedule. It'd be awesome to have 1 video a week. I don't know if I can do that. I'm kind of doing that right now, but it's pretty tough to get enough time to do the videos in terms of actually doing the work on stuff and all the time it takes to edit the videos and get them produced and put out and everything. But we'll try to at least have 1 every 2 weeks, if I can't do every week going forward here for at least the next few months until we get into summertime and travel and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully a much more active video schedule here coming up for 2023. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.